Wallabies get the win over the All Blacks, 47 points to 26. That is quite the result for the Wallabies. That lifted them above the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship table, opened things up for the Springboks to go and get the victory there. But yeah, this game is going to be mainly talked about for a red card which happened towards the end of the first half. But if you haven't watched the highlights, you should probably stop watching this video now and go and watch them. They're on like the All Blacks page and probably the Rugby Australia page, because there's a lot to see there. And it was definitely a very exciting game. I live streamed it, so if you wanted to see my live reaction, that was there. It was probably a bit of a shock for large periods, because the Wallabies really came out firing for this one, and Steve Hansen has pretty much said what the All Blacks did at times was pretty dumb. So combination of those things leads to 47 points to 26. As I said, the Wallabies kind of came out of the blocks early with some venom, and they took a pretty early lead. It was 3-0 after about 6 minutes. Penalty to Liliafano. Hodge got the first try of the game on about 10 minutes. Liliafano's cutout pass almost got intercepted, and then it was kind of bobbled, and it looked like nothing was going to happen. Then James O'Connor gets a little offload into Hodge, and Hodge just has an open run to the line. I was perhaps a little bit critical of some of his gas, but he showed a wee bit of toe there. I mentioned it in the live stream as well. Maybe it's just his acceleration is not that good, but once he gets up to speed, he's fine. But he's not often the guy who finds a gap where maybe like a Barrett does. But either way, it was a try. 10 points to 0 after 10 minutes. So a point a minute for the Wallabies early. At this point, the All Blacks have had virtually no ball. But as soon as they get the ball and it's on 12-13 minutes, Anton Leonard-Brown gets the first try. It's pretty much the All Blacks' first attack on the Wallabies. Goodhue's running. He puts a little kick through. Reed and Hooper are kind of battling. They're shoving each other, kind of jostling for position to try and get through the ball, but neither of them gets it. Hooper's only able to get a hand on it, and it goes backwards, but doesn't go over the dead ball line, and Anton Leonard-Brown is able to get there in time to force it. The TMO has a look at it, checks that Reed is onside, and it's all good, so the All Blacks get their first points from virtually nothing. It's 10 points to 7 back in the game. And then 17 minutes, the All Blacks actually go in front. Rieko Ioane gets a try. Coles gets a little break, as he's like to do down the wing, and he gets the ball to Smith. Smith offloads to Ioane, and yeah, that's the try. So it's 12 points to 10. I initially, on my first viewing, thought that pass looks a touch forward. It is sometimes hard to tell with the camera angles. The officials, though, were happy with it. So it is really hard to tell when the camera angle is not dead on whether it was forward or not. But the Aussie commentators, I looked on the highlights because the live one I was watching had New Zealand commentators. They were kind of umming and ahhing about it. The Aussie commentators seemed pretty sure it was forward. You'd need to see it from the point of view of the officials, I guess, to be sure. But my initial reaction was also that it looked a touch forward. Yeah, the Wallabies kick a penalty on 28 minutes to take the lead back, 13-12, and they will have the lead for the rest of the game from that point. Hooper and Savia had some handbags, but the big talking point of the game was this one kind of on 39 minutes or 40 minutes. It's Scott Barrett goes in on Michael Hooper, and he hits him in the head with kind of this area of his arm, his elbow area, our elbow or slightly above his elbow. Basically hits him in the head. TMO has a look at it and agrees with the ref that that's a red card. There has been a lot of people torn on this one to say whether that's not even a yellow, or that's a yellow at most, or it's a definite red. I mean, 10 years ago maybe it's not, but I think these days that's pretty much always a red. That's just what they do. If you hit somebody in the head, it doesn't really matter how it happens, if it's intentional or clumsy. If you hit somebody in the head with your shoulder, with your elbow, you're probably going to get in pretty big trouble. That's just the way the game goes these days. So, all about protecting the players. I don't think he meant anything malicious by it. I think it was just awkward, and he paid the price though, because he was sent off, red card. Wallabies kicked the resulting penalty. So it is 16-12 at halftime. I had a look at the halftime stats on ESPN. They had possession 81-19 to the Wallabies, 87-13 the Territory. So it was all Wallabies, and yet they were only 16-12 up. The fact that the All Blacks had so little ball, when they got a chance, they pretty much just took it straight away. The Wallabies probably should have been better value for that lead. Run meters were 319 to 152, and defenders beaten was 20-6 at halftime. So the Wallabies were doing a lot. Wallabies, their tackling was only 77%. The All Blacks slightly better at 80, but the All Blacks had made 80 tackles to the Wallabies 20. So that kind of shows you just how much the Wallabies were putting forward in that game. Second half, and you kind of, at least I was wondering, how are the Wallabies going to handle being a man up? Are they going to exert the pressure, or are they going to try and do too much and perhaps make mistakes? Well, their second half started pretty well for them. Salakai Loto went in for his try on 46 minutes. The pass came from Arnold. It was kind of juggled a little bit, but they got it. And it was a good decision from Nick White to go the blind side. That made it 21 points to 12. White got a try of his own after Karevi basically just ran straight over three of the All Blacks defenders, or at least two of them, and one of them tried to get him into touch but couldn't manage it. It was a devastating run from him. They scored the try, and that made it 26-12. At that point, it's kind of looking like game over, but the All Blacks, you never really can write them off. Even with a man down, 55 minutes, All Blacks with a man down go 23 phases, and eventually Barrett gets a little half gap. He steps, I think it's Salakai Loto can't correct in time, and Barrett gets the try. It's converted, so it's 26-19, and suddenly the All Blacks, from looking dead and buried, are within a converted try of at least squaring things up. But good on the Wallabies. They kept playing. 62 minutes, Korobidi gets a try, and that one was just too easy because they were like 1 meter out, and the All Blacks guys, the All Blacks forwards, started just kind of shuffling the direction they thought the ball was going to go. Korobidi just picked the ball up and just put it on the line. There was nobody there. Kieran Reid looked incredulous, but there was a huge gap. He'd have been silly not to go for it. So what Korobidi was doing there, pretty much under the sticks as well, where all the forwards should be, I don't know, but it paid off for him, and he got the try. Hodge got his second try on 69 minutes. It was out wide, and all he had to do was kind of put on a little half step for Ioane, and he went over, made it 40 points to 19. And again, that point it kind of looks dead and buried, but Wallabies kind of switch off, I guess, at the kickoff. The kickoff comes up, Reid gets a little tap back, Lamapi gets the ball and just scores straight away. So just like tit for tat stuff. That makes it 40 points to 26, and 40 points to 26 is still a long way back. I'm just saying that it was better when it was 40 to 19 for the Wallabies. But good on the Wallabies because they didn't just sit back and kick the ball back to the All Blacks and try and hold them out. They had like 2 minutes left, and they didn't just try and run the clock down. They kept attacking the All Blacks, and towards the end, Beale gets a try. Lots of good hands in the build-up to that try, and they make it 47 points to 26. I called it a bit of a hiding. The New Zealand media is calling it a thrashing, whatever you want to call it. The card or not, you have to give the Wallabies a pretty good chance of winning that game, even if it's full strength both sides. Because as I said, those stats in the first half were all Wallabies, even though the scoreboard was relatively close. They were just firing on all cylinders, and they really looked keen to win that one. I should say also that new stadium, first time they've played rugby there, I think, looked pretty slick. Even if it's an oval and maybe you're sitting a little further from the action, the stadium looked slick and the crowd was awesome. So that made for a great atmosphere. That's the kind of game that if you went to it, you'd probably never forget that one because it was just full of action pretty much the whole time. Final stats, run meters with 703 to 492, so the Wallabies dominant there. Again, extra man, but also, as I said, they were good in the first half when it was 15-15 as well. Possession was 65-35, so that came a wee bit back the All Blacks' way, but they were only less than 20% in their first half, so it kind of is hard not to be better than that. Territory 76-24, so the All Blacks playing down the wrong end, the Wallabies doing it all. Tackling percentage, if there is a concerning thing for the Wallabies, is that they were at 73%. That's low. That's kind of Super Rugby low. It's not Test match level. I guess that's why you can see 26 points. But then the All Blacks, even though they tackled at 80, which is marginally better, still had to make 160 tackles and missed enough that the Wallabies put almost 50 points on them, which is, even with a man down, man, 50 points pretty much is a whole lot. The penalty count was relatively low in this one, 4 for the Wallabies, 8 for the All Blacks. So, yeah, compared to the second game, it was a very low penalty count. Individuals, Beale had the most run meters with 112. He beat 6 defenders. Ardie Savia was the top All Black with 60 run meters and 4 defenders beaten. Nick White was actually one of the top tacklers with 9 from 11. So we're trying to put a few runners down his channel, but he's pretty strong. On defense, Karevi, interestingly, who is known to miss a tackle, was 6 from 6. Kieran Reid was the top All Black tackler with 22, but even he missed 6 tackles, so he attempted 28, made 22. You'd have to say James O'Connor's run went pretty well as well, coming into the side. For the All Blacks, that experiment with Bowden and Mo'unga at 15 and 10, I know I talked to my dad this morning and he's suddenly very much not a fan, but it is hard to say from this game because in that first half the All Blacks had such little ball, and the second half was a man down, so it's hard to judge. But it'll be a true test for the All Blacks going forward because Steve Hansen keeps talking about how they are building for the World Cup. I'm sure they would rather take this loss now than at the World Cup. You'd rather kind of get that out of the way and hopefully learn some lessons. For the Wallabies, perhaps this is a good thing for people to take them a little bit more seriously than they have. Like in the preceding weeks anyway, a lot of people have been saying Fiji are definitely going to beat Australia. Maybe there'll be a fewer people now saying that kind of thing. Perhaps give them a bit more respect, I guess, a bit of credit, but it is only one game. It's a hell of a result for the Wallabies. 47-26 will give them massive confidence. We've still got Bledisloe too, so they need to back up in the second game. It is a rare chance for them to actually capture the Bledisloe, so we'll see if they can get it done, but it's been 1994 since we lost at Eden Park, so it's going to be no mean feat. But yeah, all the pressure on the All Blacks from here. Wallabies came out with a great result. It was an entertaining game. As I said, it's not often the All Blacks get beaten 47-26, but I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed watching that one as well. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. Obviously, the red card will be a big talking point, but other than that, what else did you guys think of the game? How did you think things went? How do you see things going for the return match over here in New Zealand? Yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.